am a children's librarian. I help families find the books they want. I don't help them find books they don't want. You have written at least 21 young adult and children's books. Many have won awards. At least 16 of them have also been banned or challenged.
It's a tiny minority of people who are behind the vast majority of book bans. They're organized and weaponized by politicians who have their own reasons for wanting the libraries to be weakened and not trusted, along with other public institutions like public schools. And people are being used as pawns and are being tricked and hoodwinked into betraying their own interests. What Riley wore is a very simple picture book of about 450 words about a kid named Riley who wears whatever the occasion calls for. The book simply has no pronouns. It is a book that is frequently challenged and banned.
Hello, I'm here for another edition of Speak Up by Protect HB. My name is Lindsay Click, and I am a children's librarian and a parent in Huntington Beach and a mother. And I'm here with Elana K. Arnold, who is a celebrated author of children's books and teen books, and also a banned book author.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, welcome. I started becoming involved in the local library issues. I've recently joined a group called Our Library Matters, which is working to get out the vote specifically for two measures, Measure A and Measure B, which deal with the library and the recent attacks by the City Council on our library. The reason I got involved, I am a children's librarian, but I don't work in Huntington Beach, and I don't work at the Huntington Beach Public Library. I work in Orange County. I find that my experience every day at the library helping families and children is nothing like what the detractors from the library say it is. I help families find the books they want. I don't help them find books they don't want because they don't ask me for books they don't want. The people that are attacking books like yours and libraries for providing books like yours don't really use the library. They don't really see it as a value to the community. They really see it, especially if they're politicians, as a weapon in their culture war.
All of us authors are very grateful for all of the librarians and other advocates who want to protect the resources in their local communities and our books too.
One of the ways we've been working on getting the vote out is putting up signs. Our Library Matters and Protect HB were ready to put up our signs, and being shocked on the day after Easter and the day everyone's coming out from break to see protect our kids from porn, no on A and B. And you have children, right?
I have young adults, yes.
Yes. So do you remember when they're like 5, 6, 7 years old and they're so excited to be able to sound out words?
Absolutely.
Well, I heard from friends directly, and obviously Facebook exploded, that the word porn was the kitchen table and breakfast drop-off, morning drop-off word of the day.
Yeah.
And
of course it was.
Of course it was, because kids are excited to read and they want to know what things mean because they're little sponges. Chad Williams, the city councilman who is behind the signs and proudly has his name on them, has doubled down that he will be putting up more signs.
I heard about this on NPR on my way over here. Yeah.
Which is reflective of how he and other members on the council have been about this library situation.
It's actually a city council situation. The library is
not,
fine.
You're right. It is not a library situation. It's specifically the city council, headed up by a Moms for Liberty kind of obsessed former mayor now, but councilwoman, and Chad Williams, who have decided that their personal crusade is to protect my children and other people's children from what they call porn and what I think the average parent would call information that is important to keep their children safe. Many, many complaints came into City Hall and other places, and Chad Williams did what Chad Williams and the City Council seems to always do, which is double down, did not listen to the community, and decided that he was going to put up more signs. After gathering over 15,000 signatures, we have the two measures coming up. Measure A will repeal the ordinance that will create a politically appointed review board for children's books in our library and put a stop to it before it's even formed, because it hasn't even been formed yet. And Measure B, which will require a vote of Huntington Beach citizens like me, before the city council can outsource our library services to a for-profit company.
Amazing.
Yes. So hopefully June 10th, people get their ballots in or vote in person.
Yeah.
Yes for libraries. Yes twice. Yes on A and B. I'm so happy that you are here specifically because you, Elana K. Arnold, are such a celebrated author and such a stand-up vocal person for libraries and, more importantly, for the children and teens that deserve to be able to read books that reflect their lives and books that inspire them and books that maybe deal with difficult topics, but children go through difficult things and teens in life, and they deserve to read whatever they feel they need to read.
I agree with you. Yes.
Yes. And yes, so you're the author of more than 20 books for kids and teens. You were a HB resident. You also lived here for a time as a child or teenager. You're involved with PEN America, which is an amazing group that specifically tracks book bans in the United States and supports efforts to stop book bans nationally. You personally have been the subject your books of book 50 book bans in 29 different school districts in 11 states.
Thank you for telling me.
Which is sad, which also just goes to show how widespread this issue is.
Yeah.
And I just, as a librarian, I know that the issue is not coming from the families that are using the library. I have the same kinds of books that are in the Huntington Beach Library and the library that I work at. What is happening nationally and has now come to Huntington Beach is a very specific, motivated group of people who have read online about books that they think I should not like those books, and I am going to stop other people from reading them as well.
It's important to remember that it is a minority. It's a tiny minority of people who are behind the vast majority of book bans. And they're sort of organized and weaponized by politicians who have their own reasons for wanting the libraries to be weakened and not trusted, along with other public institutions like public schools.
Amazingly, public libraries are actually, when polled, one of the public institutions that are most trusted by the public. Yeah. So that's why these kind of attacks seemingly coming out of left field, but seemingly also coming on a cycle. It seems like every 50 years or so, the culture must go through this, it seems.
I think, I could talk a lot about the cyclicality of sort of these sort of scares. It is an interesting cycle. We had the Satanic Panic in the 80s, and it was the Red Scare, and anyway, it's interesting. And today's moral panic is cycled around, the anti-CRT movement and, porn in books in libraries and schools. So those are the sort of the topics du jour to sort of make people foam and become scared and worried and want to shut down freedoms for most people. Yeah,
and it's like a rumor mill.
Yes.
Yeah. So I actually want to hear a little bit about you and your family and the journey that brought you here and to become a children's and YA writer.
Well, I was just, always a kid who the world didn't make a lot of sense to me. People were hard. I very much wanted friends and found them hard to make. I didn't really understand why. Much later in life, I have, done more pursuing of how my own brain works and discovered I'm autistic, which has been like a great journey and a great way for me to understand a lot of the reasons why I do the things I do and a lot of the reasons why I am the way I am and where a lot of my joy comes from. It turns out, autistic people do write poems as well as award-winning and best-selling books. And books were a place where people made sense to me. The characters, you could hear what they were thinking because they said it on the page. And I think books were a way for me to decode relationships and to understand sort of the connections that undergird my very favorite animal, which is the human being. So it always seemed to me that the only thing better than reading books would be to write my own. And I have been a writer all my life with various degrees of challenges and success. And why do I write about children and teens? I'm fascinated by becoming people. How little minds are so hungry and are so interested. Children know that everything is interesting. They know it. And then as grown-ups, most of us forget that everything is interesting. And so I don't know. I like to write about the characters that see the world the way I do, which is full of curiosity and a desire to poke at things.
Tell you that's one of the things I love about being a children's librarian, because I get to learn what they're excited about and get excited about it too.
Yeah, it's like taking your little kid to Disneyland for the first time.
And I imagine when you're researching books or things like that and getting in that mindset, you also feel the same way.
I just always thought that everything is interesting. Yeah. So I think that it's just a good fit for me to write about children and teens. I write other things too, but these are the things that have made it mostly to market.
Mm-hmm. So what is your favorite book, either as an adult or child?
I don't have a favorite book. I have many favorite books, but one of my favorite books when I was growing up was Harriet the Spy, which influenced a series that I wrote about a character named Harriet, who is not Harriet the Spy. She says she was named after Harriet the Spy, but when people ask her, she lies and says, no, it's just Harriet. It has nothing to do with that. I very much liked books about usually girls who didn't fit in and who were searching for their way to understand themselves in the world. So The Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, Harriet the Spy, Anne of Green Gables were some of my absolute favorites when I was a kid.
And enduring, and they still check out.
Yep, they're still great books.
Yes. So it's often been said, and I 100% agree, that books can be mirrors or books can be windows. And how would you classify your book?
So actually, that was Rudine Sims Bishop.
I don't even know where that came from, but I love it.
That's her quote. I like to give her credit. And it's actually books are windows, mirrors, or sliding glass doors. And I would hope that mine are hopefully all three. But I really like the sliding glass doors. It's, something that you can see in through, but you can also step through and make it part of your lived experience. So. Yeah.
I just heard something, which is that we've been calling often to specify between nonfiction and fiction. Oftentimes we say fiction is fake and nonfiction is facts.
Yeah.
But someone posted recently, and I wish I could remember who said it, that they want to start saying fiction is teaching through ideas and imagination, and nonfiction is teaching through reality.
I would take out the word teaching. I would say fiction is exploring the world.
Exploring. There you go. That's
through
even better.
A filter of imagination. Because I don't think my book's job is to teach. My books are not like morality lessons that need to pass someone's muster, which is kind of what this book opposition is that a book has to perform in a certain way and teach a certain sort of lesson in a certain way to be valuable. And I think that's a really dangerous trap for even those of us on the left to fall into, to say that a book's job is to teach a lesson and to teach diversity. I don't think that's a book's job. I think a book's job is to explore the world and to be curious. And the reader's job is to infer meaning and to make meaning. So anyway, that's a little bit off topic, but I very much feel that forcing us writers and creative people to defend their work as if it does or doesn't have moral value, or if it's a teachable thing, is kind of playing into the hand of those who want to tell us that we're not teaching the right lessons. So I think it's really important to defend books, including children's books, as being important because they're art.
It's a good clarification. So, do you want to tell us a little bit more about your new book, Harriet Tell the Truth?
Oh, Harriet Tells the Truth is the third in a series about my character Harriet. They're very local books, actually. They're set on a fictional version of Catalina Island called Marble Island. And in them, Harriet has to go spend the summer there with her grandmother, whom she calls Nanu, because her mom is on bed rest and her dad has to travel for work, and there's no one to watch her. So she and her cat, Matzo Ball, go to spend the summer on Marble Island, and each of the books is a cozy mystery that she solves along with usually Moneypenny, the dog, and who was named after Huntington Beach resident, actually. When I lived here in Huntington Beach, my neighbor had a basset hound named Moneypenny, and I hope Moneypenny's still alive. So I named my Moneypenny after her.
Nice
so,
local connection.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
All right. You have written at least 21 young adult and children's books, and many have won awards or been finalists for awards, and that's amazing.
Thank you.
It's great to be celebrated, of
Thank
course.
you. It is nice.
But at the same time, at least 16 of them have also been banned or challenged. Challenge is when someone is attempting to have them removed or moved or restricted in a library. So why do you think all of a sudden these are happening?
Well, again, I don't think it's about the books. I think it's about a political position that is using books and libraries as a wedge issue to divide constituents and to make fear happen in order to push through extreme political positions, including things like defunding libraries and defunding public schools and privatizing public institutions. So they have found that saying that there's porn in the libraries is a good way of getting people to be upset and scared and to throw away the gift that is the public library. It's a terrible trick that is being played on people, and people are being used as pawns and are being, I think, tricked and hoodwinked into betraying their own interests and losing a valuable resource. And if the public library goes and is private, is not coming back. Like, can you imagine if there was no library at all, if there were no public libraries, and you were to say, I have an idea. Let's open a series of beautiful buildings that are safe and full of opportunities to enrich oneself and to entertain oneself, and access to the internet and a clean bathroom and support, and it won't cost anything for anyone to go there. Like, do you think we would make libraries now?
It's a magical.
So it's a long game to erode the public institutions is why it's happening.
I strongly also feel the same way, and that the same people that maybe 5 years ago would tell me, not while they were at the library, but why do we need libraries?
Right.
No one uses libraries.
Right.
When clearly I'm there every day and I see all the people that are using them. And actually, statistically, millennials are the highest users of libraries currently. They're the same people that are now finger wagging and claiming that there's porn in the library. And the thing is, they're the people that don't use the library. Right. So my personal solution I've been trying to do is
probably get used to a lot more.
is to try and just bring more people into the library. Yeah. And one of the things that these book banning and restrictions and just persecution of the people that use the library and the people that work at the library is that it destroys trust in something that is a gift, and these people aren't going to care if they go away.
Yeah.
They would rather just pay less taxes, I think. So we just need to value the library as it is, and I appreciate that you do. So a number of your books that have been banned or censored focus on certain issues, specifically gender identity, race, sex, and many books that also include puberty and anatomy. Why do you think these specific issues are receiving so much attention?
I think, one of the things I say in one of my books, What Girls Are Made Of, which was a National Book Award finalist, is as long as there have been women, there have been ways to punish them for being women. And many of the books that are targeted are books written by women about issues that largely impact women. And this can be cisgendered women like myself, or my, transgender women sisters as well, whose books are targeted. So it's pretty age old, a desire to limit access to information or exploration around issues of, female autonomy, female rage, female pleasure. And so those are, some of the reasons that I think it makes people uncomfortable when girls, talk about their periods, or when girls talk about, their pleasure. In fact, it's interesting, many of the books that get banned, they're more likely if they describe female pleasure than if they describe a woman or a girl being assaulted or abused. So, I think that's pretty telling.
And I think the interesting rhetoric about protecting children is, I'm a mom. I can do that job myself. Right. And I personally don't believe that keeping information from
Right.
my daughters who
Right.
are of puberty age, keeping information about their bodies, about how their bodies work,
Right.
about how other people see their bodies,
Right.
which is important.
I could have used a lot more information about that when I was young. Yeah.
And information that Kaiser Permanente tells me I should be sharing with my daughters.
Yeah.
The library is a great resource for
Yeah.
that.
Ignorance does not protect children.
Right, exactly.
Access to information and freedom to explore their issues is, I think, what protects
And if
children.
you do not believe that, it is reading is an active act. It is not a passive act. Books do not read themselves. Books do not
It's true.
jump
It's-
off shelves.
Like if you open a dictionary and you look up porn, for example, you have to do a lot of work, and then you have to bring to that definition a lot of knowledge that you already have. Versus if you Google what is porn, you're going to be flooded with images and video that you don't have to bring imagination to the page. It becomes part of your new imaginary base, whether you want it to or not.
And context matters. This
Yes.
is one of the things that's kind of a classic book banner thing is
Yeah.
to take a picture,
Yeah.
maybe the most shocking picture in a book, and blow it up really huge, maybe at a city council meeting or something.
Yeah.
Now, you would expect to see maybe a picture of anatomy in a book about anatomy or
Right.
a breast exam pamphlet at a doctor's office.
Right.
But you don't expect to be sort of assaulted with it in public
Right.
among other people you don't know on a giant screen.
Right.
So-
Or when you're driving down the street in Huntington Beach with your kids in the backseat in your minivan on the way to school, to be sort of assaulted with,
So
the
being
word
able
porn.
to control that,
Yeah.
you can do that as a parent.
I mean, good luck, know. Actually, you probably
True.
can't, and children are whole people and deserve access to their own freedoms anyway. But I may be a little more extreme on that than others, as where my stances are as far as children's rights. But anyway, go ahead and try to control your children. What you'll find out 15 years later, all the secrets that they probably kept from you, that they didn't think you were a safe place to go to with their questions, so they went somewhere else.
Excellent point. Like the internet.
Yeah.
Or their dumb,
Or their friend who
or
knows
their
so
dumb
much. Right,
friend.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I know you probably didn't go into writing
Yeah.
to become a band author.
Yeah.
And I am curious if you have any advice for other authors that are facing similar threats or
I think
challenges.
I think the
Yeah.
advice I would give is the same advice I give authors when they ask me, what do they do when they read, a bad review. And I like to remind myself that it's none of my business who reads my books. As an artist and a writer, my job is to focus on the work first. So really, as a public figure, as a writer, you have to sort of learn to compartmentalize and protect your creative time. So there's art first, and then craft, and then business. And this sort of public, work coming to these sorts of things is the business part. But when I return to my desk tomorrow to work on something new, it's, I have my horse blinders on, and my job is to make the work the best, most authentic, most interesting thing that my brain can make, and to not pay any attention to what other people are saying about it, for better or for worse.
Excellent. So integrity.
That's a good word. I like that word. Yeah. And
So-
curiosity, Yeah. Yeah.
So explain to us one of your most popular children's books, What Riley Wore.
So, What Riley Wore is a picture book. I write books for people of all ages, including the very youngest. And What Riley Wore is a very simple picture book of about 450 words about a kid named Riley who wears whatever the occasion calls for. So when Riley goes to the dentist, Riley wears a superhero cape because Riley wants to feel brave. And the book simply has no pronouns. It's just a book about a kid named Riley who wears a bunch of stuff. And it is a book that is frequently challenged and banned.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's too bad. That's sad.
It is sad. It is sad. Yeah. And it's really, really dumb.
like
in my opinion.
some other
I'm trying
things.
to say in my opinion more.
Yes. So you came and spoke at Huntington Beach's city council meeting at the public speaking section. And what motivated you personally to speak there?
So I'm not like a public facing person. I don't think of myself as someone who's very brave. In fact, I have just enormous fear of anybody in a uniform. I am also afraid of being in trouble, like capital in trouble. But there are some times when you have to speak, even if that's not really what you usually do. Usually my work is where I speak. But as a longtime Huntington Beach resident and as a thinking person who understands the importance of our public institutions, I felt it was imperative that I speak up on behalf of other authors who weren't able to come and in defense of the children who deserve free access to books and their parents who deserve to have their tax money go to the thing it's supposed to go to, which is a free library that is stocked by educated, trained librarians who have degrees and sometimes advanced degrees in collecting appropriate works for their constituents.
Yeah, library masters.
Yes.
It's pretty.
Yes.
That's a super important part, but also just a lot of experience getting to know your community.
Getting to know your community. That's exactly right.
And so the fact that, myself, I see who's checking out books, I keep it secret because I'm not, we keep people's privacy, but I know that these books check out that are being banned and people want them.
Yeah, so, I've been told that my book, What Girls Are Made Of, is in lots of libraries a frequently stolen book, and they have to rebuy it and recollect it because it used to be because teens wanted the information, wanted to keep the book. Now I sometimes I worry if it's these Moms for Liberty types that are just taking
hoarding
the books home that they don't want to be on the shelf anymore.
Yeah, that is something that does happen, unfortunately. So there's a form of censorship, which is outright banning a book where you say someone comes in, they say, I don't like this book, and for whatever reason, they take the book down and it's gone. But there's also a soft censorship where the book never makes it to the shelf in the first place, which is something that potentially could happen if they finally do form this 21-person community parent review board.
It absolutely will.
Yes, and it will. Yeah. So how do you think we can combat that?
Well, you absolutely, as voters, need to show up and vote yes on both Measure A and Measure B. That is, voting locally is the most important thing people can do. Local activism, grassroots, remembering that you are, in charge of your community and being loud and vocal and showing up at your city council meetings, even when they're boring and long and, the people in charge don't really care what you say. Those numbers matter. That repeat performance matters. Voting matters. That's the most important thing people can do is vote locally and pay attention to what's happening in their neighborhoods. People didn't pay good enough attention. When I lived here, I don't think I was paying good enough attention locally. I was paying attention nationally, and I forgot I didn't pay enough attention locally. And then Gracie
Vanderbrook? No.
Yes,
Vandermark.
Yeah, became Vandermark. That's pretty clever. I was elected kind of on my watch when I was living here, and I feel a lot of shame that I wasn't paying enough attention locally.
Being aware and voting.
Yes. Putting the signs in your yards, talking to your neighbors, make it fun. How many people can you get to go out and vote together? How many young people who aren't registered can you help get registered? Think of all the creative ways you can turn your one vote into 100 votes and then actually do those things is my advice.
Awesome. Yes. And it's people do really love the library. And a lot of people still don't know what's going on, which is kind of shocking. I think porn everywhere will probably wake them up to it. But speaking of porn, if you were to talk to the city council, sadly, if you had to, what would you say to their claims that there is porn in our library?
I spent some time actually arguing with these people about this and explaining that there's this thing called the Miller test, which is a 3-pronged test for deciding if something is pornography, and that my books absolutely do not qualify because my books do have literary value and other reasons. But at this point, I wouldn't engage in that conversation. It's not a good faith conversation. They are not interested in a debate or a conversation or an education. They are interested in stealing people's freedoms and in shutting down your public institution. So I would not engage in that conversation. I get paid for my words, and when I give them away for free, I'd like to give them to people who care about them.
So maybe use that energy to just find more people to vote.
Find more people to vote. Yeah. Make it fun. Like, have a neighborhood challenge. Make one of those those little leaderboards and, see who can get the most people to register who haven't registered before. Go to your high schools and talk to seniors. They're 18. Ask them if they know. There's so many unregistered or registered but unvoting people right in your own little neighborhood that if everybody decided to just get to know their own neighbors and knock on all those doors, maybe avoid the ones, with the MAGA flags. Probably you're not going to get a lot of buy-in there. But take this bravery. It was scary for me to stand up in front of that city council. It scares me to sometimes do things like this even. Like I get terrible emails telling me that I should be raped and killed because I write pornography and I'm a pedophile, neither of which are true. Neither of which is true because neither is a singular. But, one must do scary things in scary times. So, everyone needs to do their part.
Well, I agree. And on that note, I just want to thank you for being here, taking time out of your schedule to stand up for our local library and children in our community and families who just want their library to be their library like it always has and to just stop the drama.
Yeah.
So Elana K. Arnold, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for the work you're doing protecting your libraries.
Thank you.
It does matter.
So this has been Speak Up from Protect HB.